me. I'm Paul Burns. I'm the CTO here at RANGR Data. Apologize in advance. I don't have the soothing accent that Niels does, but hopefully you enjoyed it anyways. Yeah. First off, who's RANGR? What do we do? We're a Foundry first consultancy, and so we get into the weed with our customers and help them in any way they need, whether that's strategic advising or we are their development team, or we're working alongside the development team and training them up and providing that guidance and building out use cases. And so what I'm going to be presenting today is how we leverage Foundry. It would be more than a bit hypocritical to say, hey, Foundry can revolutionize your business. And then behind the scenes, we're actually using a hodgepodge of software, right? And also just naturally as Foundry builders, all the way up to leadership, like problem came up, a natural solution was Foundry. And it's been something that we've been building honestly on the side as problems come up. That's what I'll be presenting through as we go through this. Sorry, I just hit the 24-hour mark. I need to re-authenticate Foundry. Well, I've gotten an hour, so I think I can get away with it. But right up front, why should you care? Well, obviously, everyone's here to learn. We want to hopefully get tips and tricks, get some ideas if you're looking through it. But two, we want to go once past that. Our idea very soon is we're going to be open sourcing as much or all of this as we can. And so if it's more than just an idea, but something that you're able to grab and incorporate into your own business and extend even past what we're doing here. With that, I'm going to get into my single slide and then get back to my natural habitat of Foundry in a demo. But here is our operating model. And just to give you some context, the first thing that we ask for customers, the first thing that we ask ourselves is, what are the fundamental components of this business? Sometimes it's a business, sometimes it's a vision, but what are the fundamental things that we need in order to be successful? And like most companies, but especially a consultancy, it all starts with your people. And so with that, it started with the application tracking system. That's our talent engine. And I'll get into the metrics later, but it ended up becoming very, very important once we hit the volumes we were on applicants come in. But it's a way to, as automated as possible, find and vet the best talent there so that we ensure that we've got quality engineers working for us and therefore our customers. Tied directly in with that is our sales. And so obviously, if you have people but you don't have anything for them to work on, that kind of defeats the purpose. And so tight integration between sales and the sales engine, and then how that plays back to the application tracking system and ensures that we're having a balance on our hiring charts compared to our pipeline forecast. And then the third leg that kind of really defines and makes up our what I'll call like our operational group is the glue is delivery. Delivery is what is taking inputs from both the application tracking system to understand the people that are available and the skills they have, taking an input from the sales engine, understanding what opportunities are coming down the pipeline, when and what the probability of those actually happening are, and ensuring that we have the staff in place, they're trained up, and we have the right people to actually deploy once hopefully as customers choose to work with us. And so if they do choose to work with us, the next thing is to execute against that and actually staff up, schedule our resources based on that skills-based matchmaking, and then ensure that over the lifetime of the project, it's remained healthy. And we do that a bit through project management and then a tailored suite of tools specific for production support, which because of the nuance of that work and how it's hourly, it took a different approach to how we manage that and make sure that we're providing the best support that we can. But that's it. It is our operating model. So with that, I'm going to hop straight into the demo. And you're not going to be able to read this. That's not the point. I'm going to be digging into each one of these pieces, but it's not a coincidence that this looks like the slide, right? As everybody hears, you're making a digital twin of your business. And so that is what this is. This is our ontology. It's a digital twin of those core components. It's made up of, the application tracking system over here, works its way through sales and delivery over to day-to-day delivery with that alerting structure on top. And where that really, the core principle behind it is we want to make sure that the people in our business are focusing on what actually matters. So kind of the philosophy throughout it was, how can we build tooling not that creates administrative burden, but allows people to focus on what actually matters, talking with clients, doing the development, digging in on specific problems. And then this engine will prompt them to say, hey, you don't need to remember all of these 10 things. We're going to alert you. Whenever there is a situation you need to be acutely aware of, you're going to get a notification to go and pay attention to that. So it offloads that memory overhead. Anyways, digging into the first one, I'm actually going to flip over and start with the metrics. Well, first off, here's the suite of applications I'm going to be walking through, but I've already got them pulled up. This is just a simple homepage to keep it all organized. But I was mentioning, the volume of our applications, and I had the 30,000 applicants number in my head, but now it's 31,000. That's probably over the last day, and it's accelerating quickly. If we look down over the past week, we have about 1,800 new applicants. And so I just wanted to quickly show the volume and why it's necessary to have have this system in place. Is that we need to be able to sift through that without spending hours and hours and hours of everybody's time. And so in doing so, we created our ATS ontology, which at its core is the application. And then spreading out from there, there's main, what job are they applying for? They get a test gorilla assessment, which is a typical technical assessment out there that's available. If they pass that, then they actually get embedded into our Foundry stack. And so it's a tight integration with Bamboo to get the applications, but then also Microsoft, where we provision them access and use the platform APIs to create a folder for them, put the sample data in there, provide them a guide, and say, hey, go build something, right? They need to know if they like Foundry. We also need to see that either they do have the experience they're stating, or they're able to learn quickly and adapt to Foundry. And what we found is actually, the best engineers are people who, there's not that many people who have the experience. And so you can find people through putting them through a practical assessment, you can find that talent. I want to switch over from there because that's really where, at that point, that's fully automated. The applicant has gotten to where they've actually built out a CRM in our instance, and they go into their candidate portal and they say, okay, I'm ready. It's time for a review. And at that point, that's where we have the, kind of human in the loop components, I would say, where, okay, now our engineers actually need to go and assess this candidate. And so at that point, it sends them over to here as soon as they submit for that. And then our folks are going in, and obviously I've stripped away names and everything else, including the folder name, including the folder name. So there's links to the folders, et cetera, to go and look at the application. Yeah. Yeah, Bo is a little bit nervous that it's like, wait, you're going to be showing the opportunities like the sales engine? Wait a second. Yeah, it's all demo stuff, of course, but it is in our production stack. So sorry to make people nervous. So they come in here and they actually, they pass or fail them based on that. Essentially, is there enough promise from what we're seeing in their application to have a live review? If yes, then they make it their way over to the Foundry review stage, and at that point they're scheduled for an interview with two of our engineers, where they go over their CRM live, talk about the why and the what of what they built, and then we purposely break something or we ask them to enhance something, and they have to do that live as well. And so didn't find anything out there that was, kind of a live coding, but for Foundry. And so we needed to build that ourselves. If they then get graded anonymously by those two engineers, And if they pass that hiring or that threshold, they're then sent over, automatically sent over to sign up for an interview with the associate hiring manager based on that job type. And lastly, that hiring manager, either, that's the end of the road. That's kind of the bad outcome of any of these, is that that's the end of the road. But if they make it past that, then they're in our talent pool at that point. So we understand, we can dig into this and see, we can look at their application, we can look at their test Gorilla scores, we can look at the scores that um, that our engineers provided, we can look at any notes about them. And so we just have a really good idea of who is available to make an offer to next, and who's the top talent. And so weaving all that in together, that's how delivery understands, through the forecast of the opportunities, and then what's available. Do we need to trigger some external recruiting because we're actually lagging behind? Do we have the bench available so that whenever, the right time comes, we can send out those offers and they can make those calls from there? And then even, actually send out the offer. And if they're offered and they accept, they become, an employee in our ontology. Following the same order as I was talking about on the overview slide, is up next is the sales and delivery, and I put those together just because they are very tightly woven together, and that's why I've even got this bridge here, where those are kind of the core concepts that are between these two elements. And so with sales, we have at the core we have the opportunities, and then we have the pipeline and the people who are the sales team. Sales team, shout out Bo again, the entire sales team. Used to be John, now it's Bo. So, but yeah, it's set up in a way where it'll scale to, however many end up being on that team. And so within those opportunities, they're able to manage them, have a weighted probability of, what stage are we at? Based on that, what's the probability of success? If you have a gut reaction to say, I think it's actually higher, you can change that. And also putting in the staffing requirements, continually updating that as you're talking with people, and you get a better understanding of their project, and the scale that it might have. We've got like a default team, but then you can obviously adjust that based on the complexity and everything else on the proposal. And in that, and then, well, let me just go ahead and talk about the project side too. So that's where there's that tight coupling, where as the staffing requirements are defined in the opportunity, if we win them, that's where we need to execute against that. And so that staffing requirements ends up becoming, staffing assignments, where we actually need to do that skills-based matchmaking and actually assign that out. And so with that, I want to jump over to the managed opportunities real quickly, and just show, you can dig into the further details, but within these opportunities, we've got our different pipelines. In the background, there's obviously, administrative type modules and other elements that allow for, curating the experience for that salesperson. But we're able to see, what's their current probability, what's the product, when do we expect it to start, who is the organization. Again, this is all obviously fake. We don't actually work for ourselves, but we can go in and manage these opportunities, changing the stage, updating the probability. If we win the deal, maybe we need to get a LLM summary of all of our current opportunities, and then briefly talking about, okay, well, the alerting side, right? It's very easy if you're working on, if one person is working on multiple opportunities, and then you multiply that by a team of people working on hundreds of opportunities, to forget some of the human elements. And that's where we have the alerting. This is one of the places where the alerting gets plugged in. And so company C, there's an opportunity with probability greater than 0 without staffing requirements, right? Oh, well, we're saying we're going to win something, but we're saying it's not going to take any people. That's obviously incorrect. We need to go in and plug that in so that our hiring forecasts are correct. Opportunity dates need updating. If we look back at company C, it's saying that it's going to start, in the past. Again, obviously not true. We should move that out. We need to make sure that, the components that are naturally human-based continue to be updated without leaving it up to the memory of any given individual. Heading over into staffing. This is where, at first it was fine to be in Excel. We knew our staffing requirements. We were kind of, placing the people as we go. Very quickly, it got to be way too complicated. I wish I could show you what this looks like for real with the volume of clients and assignments that we have and employees that we have to assign them to. But we ended up building this out to where for active projects, you can come in here, you assign them, you can obviously unassign them, update any assignment details. Maybe, hey, we thought it was going to take this much, but we're going to provide some surge support, and so we're going to assign another person on top of that requirement. Maybe we need to, and then just some helpful links over here to head over to the project opportunity, et cetera. This also helps with really a visual way of confirming our hiring forecast, is that we can see, well, hey, I really don't want to hire unless we have at least a 50% probability of winning this. And so we can play around with looking at the assignments as if those opportunities were converted into projects, and start putting in placeholders. We can already go ahead and soft assign. If it's a renewal, typically we'll want to keep the same team, things of that nature. So it's just a really useful planning tool for our delivery heads to work with. And then lastly, on the project side, is that we need to then manage the health of the projects as throughout the lifetime of the active project. And so having that overarching view of, what projects are healthy, what projects need, may need attention, and just being able to dig into that using this project health module very quickly, being able to see what are the requirements, what are the staff requirements and assignments, who's working on them, what's our current status. Let me go over and look at the project management plan, which I'm going to show here briefly, and basically gives a way to focus the attention, of the delivery head. Farzad, if you're in here, wherever you are, Farzad. Yes, that is really our, as far as like operations oversight, that makes up the core modules that we use. And then what's left from there is our day-to-day delivery, right? And so our engineers, our engagement directors, our technical leads, they're all, actively working these projects. They need a way to manage themselves and organize themselves, again, without having that organizational or kind of administrative burden on top. And so, if we're embedding with the client's program management, we'll use that. But otherwise, we're going to be using our own suite of project management tools over here. Think Jira, think Asana, think Hive. But it weaves in some of our method and our way of thinking about project management. And then specifically for prod support, because they are hourly contracts, we have a unique set of objects there to manage that, where if you've gone into the support side of Foundry, what we set up is we're a support group, a support type, so that on their application, in their instance, they're able to make requests to us, and then our team basically assesses that and triages it, does timeline assumptions, and gets it matched up to the person who has a history of being able to tackle that type of task, basically categorizes it and assigns it out. So that's what becomes a work engagement, and then that transfers over into our project management tooling where it actually gets executed on. Last up, I've got a couple minutes here. I just want to show an example of the project management plan, where we have the different ticketing levels of features, tasks, and subtasks. Again, it's kind of standard stuff that you would get from Jira or others, but because it weaves into the rest of our ontology, it's going to enable us in some of our future like digital twin efforts, that I'll be speaking to in a moment. And it also is context to say when something is healthy or when something is unhealthy. Let me have a conversation about that project, and this provides that additional context. and those risks get surfaced up to there as well to be handled by the appropriate person. And so you'd be able to come in here and do all of the typical work that you would do, which is, mark things as in review, change the status, change the priority level, change the time assumptions on how long you expect it to take, change ownership, adjust the feature ordering of the tasks, et cetera. And lastly, second to last, I was talking about the production support. And so like I was saying, these are our hourly contracts. So we use time series based on we also didn't show it, but we have like the ability throughout all of this at a task level and at a project level to submit time and what you've worked on, so that we, basically have an audit trail and have proof of the hours that we're doing. And we, we're not just saying we're doing work, but we can show you exactly what work contributed to the hours that is on that invoice. And so this keeps track of that. For example, showing as red here because, hey, it's the middle of October and we've hit our hourly limit for the month. And so we need to be careful about that. Moving on quickly over to alerts. I don't know if anyone's used Foundry Rules, but that's what we're using as the alerting engine, where we can set up any of these and assign proper ownership so that, again, we're offloading the memory of our employees and being able to just notify them of things that they need to be acutely aware of at the time that they need to be aware of it. And so with that it really wraps it up. And what I'm really excited about is that like I said at the beginning, it was kind of a side project that just evolved as we ran into problems. But the future vision, of course, is to open source it. And then what we want to do on top of that is really we need to, we have people processes in place right now that we need to, instantiate as tooling so that as we scale the sales team past one person, as we scale up, we're able to have that as a natural thing that somebody gets embedded into instead of having to learn each of these components and kind of trust that the learning is there, but rather it's natural. You get in, you start getting notified of things you need to pay attention to. You have that additional context. The tooling is easy, and we remove the need for for example, Andrew, whenever, hey, we're at this point of the project, okay, we need to actually upload that SOW, or anything like that. And then lastly, I think what Dory and Connor over at CodeStrap are doing is going to make its way over into our work here as well. And we have all of this context. So we need to be able to have, and we have some of this already, but we need to be able to have a conversation with a project. We need to be able to have a conversation with an opportunity. We need to be able to have a conversation about the finances. And so because all of this is interwoven, it will be very natural to not just have a conversation and get information back, but have a conversation and that implements the actions that we've set up to define all of these processes. And so that's a bit of what we're going to be aiming to do now that we have the chance to really dig in and mature this product. But that's the end of my presentation, and y'all can ask questions or we can all just go to lunch.